to listen to one of my very favorite people. She has something amazing on her heart. I got a little tiny bit of a sneak preview yesterday, just a tiny one. It's really good. She's so amazing and so willing. With something that I love about her is she has just such a willing, soft heart to bend towards the Lord. And whatever he says, she says yes to. And she just consistently allows the Lord to take her on the journey of saying yes to him and submitting herself to him over and over again, even when it's no fun. Just willingness to obey is amazing. I mean, that just, the fruit in her life just shows the willingness to yield to him constantly, and I really honor that and appreciate that about her. So you guys should really listen and maybe even take notes. Just receive this word. So, Talena Carter.
It's going to make me cry. Gosh, nothing like getting rocked in worship right before you speak. Lately, that song, we're singing it in worship, we're singing it to the Lord, and I just feel I'm singing it right back to me. He loves your face. He loves your heart. He wants to be near you. It's like, whoa. It's awesome, God. Before I begin, sorry, I'm just collecting all my stuff. I just wanted to share just a testimony about being up here tonight, and maybe it'll speak to someone else's heart out here, but I was just going through, hi friend, I was just going through the process of getting up and speaking in front of people, and as many of you know, when you go to do that, you confront some things, nervousness, insecurity, and I was sharing with somebody, I'm like, I don't know, I just don't know if what I have to say is important, or if my words are valuable, if people really receive them, if they take me seriously, and so I was just, pondering that over the couple of mornings ago with the Lord, and he just confronted me, and he said, you're worried about people not taking you seriously or not thinking your words are important because you don't believe your words are important and you don't take yourself seriously. And he said, I take you seriously and your words are important to me. Your life ministers to me. And I want you to do what I've called you to do. And so I feel like that's for someone here. Maybe you're just stepping out and doing something. Your life, your words minister to the Lord. He's your audience, He's what matters. And he's just so good. When he comes and he speaks to us like that, it just breaks it, doesn't it? Like, that's so... Our friends are good to bring encouragement to, and you can do it, but just hearing from the Lord is like, there's nothing like it, right? So this evening, I've kind of been on I got obsessed with the topic of meekness. And I was doing a study with Havilah Cunnington called The Good Stuff, and one of the days was on meekness, and it just, whoa, I was like, wow, I want to explore this more, Lord. And so I entitled this message, "And the Meek Shall Inherit the Earth," from Matthew 5:5. I think we're in exciting days for Zion. Like, I just feel like we're all stepping into promotion. We're all, no matter what, if you have a title of leadership or whatever you are in the church, in the world, the Lord's promoting you. And I feel like with that promotion, there comes great responsibility to really understand what we're walking into and how to carry that. And every Sunday, John's just preaching about just that Mahanaim, just the heaven coming to earth, and how we are vessels of heaven and bringing it to earth. But what does that look like, in the practical? And how do we steward that awesomeness that the Lord has put in us? And so I just wanted to talk about one of the gifts of the Holy Spirit, which is meekness. And I want you to kind of think of, as the Lord is giving out these keys of power and authority and, words of wisdom, that I want you to think of meekness as that key ring that holds the keys of the kingdom. So as I said, meekness is a gift of the Spirit. So there's just no choice. You're going to have it. If you're walking close with the Lord, meekness is going to be a fruit in your life. And I kind of feel like meekness has gotten a bad rap. Maybe because it rhymes with weakness. I don't know. But, and I'm kind of like, oh, poor word. Like, it's this incredible word. And and I kind of blame Webster's. I went on and I looked at Webster's, and this is what they said. I mean, some of it I'm like, yeah, okay. The first definition was enduring injury with patience and without resentment. Okay, it's all right. And then the second one was deficient in spirit and courage. I'm like, okay. And then the third was not violent or strong. And then it went on to give synonyms, which are, words that are related to it. So some of them was compliance, deference, passivity, resignedness, submission, submissiveness, ingenuousness. I'm not going to say that word. I'm not going to skip over that stupid word. Naivety, plainness, simpleness, bashfulness, diffidence. Here's my favorite, mousiness. That's fun, right? Oh, she was so mousy. Who wants to be described as that? Quietness, reserve, reservedness, retiringness, sheepishness, shyness, timidity, and timidness. So when I read that definition, I got a little nervous. Started to sweat a little, like, what are you saying, Lord? Like, I don't understand, like, the sheepishness, like, yeah, Jesus was the lamb. I can, okay, trying to pull at something here, right? How am I going to twist this? So anyways, it can be a little confused when, Sunday John is telling us to be lions. And then at the same time, we're reading about Jesus' life, and Jesus is described as meek. And so we're like, okay, this is like contradictory things, but God loves contradictions, and that's what makes him so fun. First of all, before I go into what the biblical definition of meekness is, I want to say that there's 3 men in the Bible who are specifically called meek. Paul, maybe you've heard of him. 2 Corinthians 10:1, now I, Paul, appeal to you personally by the meekness and gentleness of Christ. And the second one is just a little guy in the Old Testament, Moses, I don't know. Numbers 12:3. Now the man Moses was very meek, more so than any man on the face of the earth. And then number 3, of course, the big guy, right? Jesus. Matthew 11:29 and Matthew 21:5. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am meek and lowly in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. And look, your king is coming to you, meek and seated on a donkey. There's some other ones in there too, but I love the image of Jesus seated on a donkey. Like I like that. So 3 guys in the Bible that we all just admire and like are heroes in the faith, and they're described as meek. So it just got me thinking there's got to be something more to this word, And anytime, I was reading over the stories of Jesus, and he was just, it was so hard picking out examples because everything he did was an example of meekness. So anytime we look into the life of Jesus and read all about his amazingness and his testimonies and stories, I am just realizing it's an invitation for me to do the same. His story is my story. His story is your story. He lives in you, and he's wanting to reproduce himself in you. So what is meekness? What is this biblical definition of meekness? I would like to propose that it's possibly meekness isn't weakness, but strength controlled. Wikipedia, I liked Wikipedia. Meekness was strength controlled, righteous, humble, teachable, patient, under suffering, long-suffering, willing to follow gospel teachings, and an attribute of a true disciple. Another definition was quiet and friendly composure, which does not become embittered or angry at what is unpleasant. It is not passive submission, but an active and deliberate acceptance. The Greek word is, and I don't know exactly the pronunciation, praus. Does anybody anybody who's super smart in the room? Or, no, huh? Oh, that's a load off. Okay. So it's a difficult, that root of pra is difficult to translate, but it means more than meek. Biblical meekness is not weakness, but rather refers to exercising God's strength. I'm going to turn this under his control, demonstrating power without undue harshness. So wow, strength submitted to God, power under control. It's not strength laid down. It's not strength surrendered. It is strength surrendered, but it's strength surrendered to God. Directed, brought under the direction of him, of the Holy Spirit. It's focused, it's intentional strength. So I just wanted to just clear that up with us, so when we do hear the word meek, we're not like, oh, doormat, or, because that is, for a while, has been that. You could think of meekness as, my kids and I just finished The Black Stallion and then watched the movie, and you could think of the Black Stallion as meek. You know, once he came under control and under you know, that little boy Alex's leadership and training, he was strength controlled. And they won the race, and he was powerful and wild, yet he was under control, and his strength was used for purpose. So tonight, I wanted to discuss 4 reasons why meekness is essential to ruling and reigning on this earth. I'm going kind of crazy because I have 4 points, and I guess that's like wild, according to Sean. I know, because usually it's like 3 or 5 or something, but I never did like the box, so... So the first one is meekness is remaining malleable to God. And then another, I don't never. Preach it. I never really use the word malleable, but that was what popped into my head. But malleable, for those of you who would like the definition, is capable of being shaped or bent, remaining impressionable and easily influenced, letting God impress upon you. Jesus cried out in the garden, "If it is your will, take this cup from me, but not my will. Let yours be done." He was basically saying, Father, have your way, right? And isn't that our cry? Have your way, God. I mean, I'd kind of like to go this way, but have your way. You know, I hope my way lines up with yours, but when we are malleable to God, we let the Father have his way in us. We are constantly aware of the fact that we're not done yet. We let him come and change what needs to be changed, and we don't cling to our ideals or what motivates us. It's what motivates him. So we're in constant pursuit of his desires and plans for us. We don't lay claim to ourselves. We don't belong to ourselves anymore. We are his bondservants, like it says in 2 Corinthians 4:5. And that term bondservant was kind of a controversial term for Paul to use, because back in the Roman time, that wasn't thinkable to be a bondservant. They really prided themselves on freedom and their independence and their, freedom to think of what they want. Which really, really relates to kind of our Western mindset, right? We're independent. We want our way. We're go for it, you know. So it can be hard. It can be hard to silence that voice of self that says me, 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 and my, and I, and that was fun. So we are clay in his hands, and I would rather have the Lord mold me as clay instead of, him coming at me with a hammer and a chisel because I've gotten so hard and so set in my ways. He's going to come after me. I just want to be soft, and I want to be moldable and easily influenced. You know, I don't want to let myself get hard through bitterness and unforgiveness and have him chip away at me, right? So it's good to know yourself. You know, the Greek saying, know thyself, but I think it's better to be known by God. You know, it's really funny because we're so into those personality tests, right? Or at least I think they're fun. And maybe it's just a woman thing, but those Facebook's always like, what Muppet character are you? Or what princess, I'm Cookie Monster, thanks Facebook. It's cleared up a lot, And so they're fun. I know I'm a phlegmatic sanguine. I'm the golden retriever when it comes to the animals, happy-go-lucky, wants to play, wants to please. But sometimes we can get so set in that. Oh, I'm phlegmatic, I'm laid back, therefore I don't need structure, and I don't need discipline in my life, or no. Those are great, those are fun things, it's good to know who we are and our strengths and our weaknesses, but don't ever let that come between what the Lord wants to do in you, Oh, I'm not a people person, so I would never get up and share a testimony, or I would never pray for somebody because I'm not, let God do what he wants to do when he wants to do it, and don't be confined by your personality, right? So that can feel really uncomfortable, but stretching. So he knows best, so it's saying yes to God. Number 2, meekness is using our strength to empower others. And also, star this part, is also realizing from whom our strength comes from. So, Jesus came as a servant, and he knew that his power came from on high, which kept him rooted in humility. Because he was all about the Father. His whole life was all about the Father, and that humility kept him grounded. And humility refers to an attitude towards oneself, thinking of oneself less, not thinking less of yourself, but just thinking of yourself less, oneself less. Meekness, they can kind of get clumped together, but meekness means restraining one's own power as to allow room for others. And didn't Jesus do that? He came to earth and he allowed room for others. He wanted to co-labor with man. Like, how cool is that? Like, who does that, God wants to co-labor with us. And this is seen as in us parents, or anytime we've been with children, we are constantly restraining our strength. Like, Mike, I want to tie my shoe, and so we sit there for just watching, just sweating, like, we got to go, when I want to do it, and when I really just want to jerk it out of their hand and tie it myself and there, I did it, but I don't. I restrain myself, my power to tie that shoe, and I let them, and I train them up, and I teach them how to do it, right? Because that would be weird if I was still tying my 30-year-old shoes. And, we don't want to do that. So we train them up and we empower them. So meekness is evident in us coming alongside others and using whatever graces, giftings, or strength that we've been given to serve them. It's not to lord it over them. Oh, look at me. So now that I'm so great, you guys are going to serve me, and it's all about me. We actually have been given those to empower other people. We're not intimidated by their greatness. When they come up alongside us, we're happy, like, yay, man, I must be a really good leader because look at all these great people who are surrounding me and getting bigger than me, And so in doing that, the Lord actually exalts us. It's kind of weird. I wanted to share a story about my husband because he's totally awesome and yeah, amen. About, not last summer, but the summer before, I dragged him on an adventure with me. I decided that I was going to climb Mount Adams, and I told Vince, I'm like, I can do it by myself. You don't have to come. I'm going to do this by myself. So if you want to come, that's fine. You're invited, And so Vince is like, okay, I'm coming, I don't know if he went, okay, but maybe on the inside he did. So looking back, it's just really kind of funny because I was very naive. There is no way I could have done that adventure on my own. I mean, it's almost laughable. But we went with another couple, and we get to the mountain, and it was probably like a 7-mile hike just to the part where you get to the snow part, the snow field or whatever. And so it was just quite a hike getting to I don't know if you call it the base of the mountain, but whatever. The place called the lunch counter, which is where a lot of people go and they camp, and then they will summit the next morning. Well, we didn't. We're going to do it all in one day. Yeah, we can do it, right? It's an adventure. Anyways, we went with another couple who had never climbed a mountain, and so yeah. And I trained for months. I was running. I was lifting weights. I was like, yeah. Vince, nothing. He's just trekking up the mountain like it was no thing. I was just like, wow, must be nice, He's just kind of one of those people who's just in shape all the time. It doesn't matter. Anyways, so we get to the lunch counter, and the girl who was with us, her legs are cramping up and she can't climb anymore. So she's like, I'm just going to stay at the lunch counter. You guys go on ahead and summit. I don't want to hold you back. She's super gracious, and we're like, are you sure, and she was even fine with her husband going along, and we're like, okay, we'll be back in 3 hours, right? Was it 3 hours? Okay, yeah. Yeah, so we got to the false summit in 3 hours. And then we were gone 9 hours, right? She was there at the lunch counter for 9 hours. So we get to the false summit, which is just a cruel thing to name a summit. And part of you is just like, I'm at the false summit. I want to be done. But then you're going to go back and tell people you got to the false summit. You can't rename it so people don't really know that you didn't actually, I made it to the false summit, That's not a great story. And you made it that far, you might as well go all the way, right? So we get there, and yeah, we climbed a mountain. It was just the best feeling, just the adrenaline rush. And yeah, that was awesome. And you just feel amazing and strong and capable. And then you have to go down, which is not the fun part, because sometimes coming down from a mountain is just as hard if not harder, than climbing a mountain because you're tired and the thrill is gone and you just want to go home or just go back to your camp and cozy up to the fire with a root beer, you know? Wink, wink, right? That's what we were dreaming about and talking about all the way down. Anyway, so we're going down and we're getting tired, and our plan was to slide down the mountain we had garbage bags, and this is what people do. This is how they get down on the snow part, and it's the fun part, and you dig your ice axe in and you slide down the mountain. Julie's like, that does not sound like fun. Well, it looked fun on the internet, okay? When you go to do it, it's different. Anyways, turned out I was not strong enough to dig my ice axe in for my brakes, which could be really dangerous if you're going down, because you can build up, speed very quickly on these garbage bags. We tried going on our pants, but I'm wearing yoga pants. It wasn't working. Vince that was our plan. We were going to slide down. It was going to shave off 4 hours because, from a distance, the mountain is like that angle, but when you're climbing it, it's like this. So you're trying to go down and you have your crampons and you're scared a little bit and you're tired. And then the fog is coming in and the rain's coming down and this poor girl is down there waiting for you. And so her husband's getting a little stressed, And so in those situations, you really learn a lot about people. So he's getting stressed. He's getting a little scared. I'm in my head. I can't believe I dragged these people. We're going to die, And we did not climb Mount Everest. This was Mount Adams. But when you're on it, it feels like Mount Everest, okay? Anyways, Vince, cool as a cucumber. He was not ruffled or rattled. He was words of encouragement. You can do it. You're awesome. The guy we were with, he's paralyzed with fear. I can't move. I can't go down. It's so steep. Him and I could not get our crampons on our shoes for the life of us because our hands were all numb and just weak and couldn't get it tight enough. And you don't want to try to go down on ice with just your tennis shoes, You need the crampons. So poor Vince, we're having to stop because there'd be ice and then there'd be rock and then there'd be ice. And you can't be on the rock with your crampons either. So each time you have to take them off and then put them back on. Take them off and put them back on. We couldn't do it. We weren't strong enough. Vince acted like he puts crampons on for a living. It was like nothing for him. But we'd have to sit and wait, and he'd put our crampons on. Not once was he like, you guys, do you get it? He was so, just gracious and wonderful and made us feel like we are going to do this. We're going to get off this mountain. It's going to be fine. You don't need to be afraid, I was keeping my fear inside because I didn't want to make this other guy more afraid. You can tell when someone's afraid and you're not like, I know we're going to die. We're going to die. You don't want to do that. You're like, yes, no, we're going to be fine. And we got there. It was fine. And the girl was super gracious. But I was just so impressed by my husband that he used his strength to get us down that mountain. He used his strength to empower us to make it down safely. And isn't that what we're called to do as believers? To use whatever strength we've been given to serve and help others. And we don't do it begrudgingly I'm sick of this. Get it together. When are you going to get it? Some people just aren't going to get it, and they're just not strong enough. And we got to be willing to be okay and to be meek, to use our strength to serve and empower others. That was kind of a long story for that point, but all right, how are we doing on time? That was good. That's good. So Jesus came in meekness, and his whole life was an exercise in meekness. He came to earth with the intent of empowering mankind to not only do the works he did while on earth, but he said to do even greater works. John 14:12. So leaders, are you okay with the people who are following you to do even greater works than you? Are you okay when they get bigger and better and, than you, to go above and beyond you? Are you willing to use your strengths to come up under them and even serve them into greatness? To turn around and then be serving them, Are you confident enough in the Lord to do that? The Lord sent out the disciples, and they were like newbies, to go out and do his works, and wow, that was confidence on Jesus' part. They're representing his name, but he believed in them, and he wasn't ruffled by their insecurities or their weaknesses. John Kennedy said, it's not what your country can do for you, it's what you can do for your country. And I flipped it and I said, it's not what the church can do for you, it's what can you do for the church. What are your giftings, your strengths, your power? With all that comes so much responsibility. And the Lord just wants to give more. He just wants to pour it out. But we got to steward it with meekness. I always tell my son has been really big ever since he was born. Like, he came out just with a man head and just strong. And it was cute in a creepy way. But he's always just been big and because of that, and you got a little toddler who's big, and so he kind of was a bully to other kids, used his strength to kind of get his way. And for a season I was babysitting Nehemiah, Zara's boy, and he'd come over every afternoon and get his little butt kicked by Noah, and it was so embarrassing and so humbling for me. Like, I'm sorry, no, I can't, I'm trying, I'd lock him in his room and I'd have to hold the door, and he'd be like thrashing and like wild animal and feral, and it was just that I'm the golden retriever. Like, what do we do? I don't know how to handle this. So the Lord definitely did a work in me with that. Anyways, but as Noah has gotten older, I've explained to him, I'm like, the Lord made you big for a reason. He made you strong for a reason, and it's not to beat up other people. It's to serve and protect other people. And when I tell him that, he's like, yeah, I like that idea. Like, I want to use my strength to serve people. It doesn't make me better. It doesn't give me right to push them around. And anyways, so number 3.3 is meekness is focused on God's agenda. Again, Jesus in the garden, he had a bigger agenda. I mean, Jesus' whole life, he had a bigger agenda. It wasn't about getting his needs met or the needs of the disciples met at that time. It was, no, I have a purpose. I've come with intent. I know what I'm doing, and nothing's going to hold me back. I'm not going to give in to your little desires right now or your wants right now. At any time, he could have come down off the cross, right? At any time, but he had the bigger picture in mind, He was focused on God's agenda. God's agenda was his agenda. Again, David knew that God had an agenda too. King David, he wasn't king at that time. I mean, he was, but he wasn't quite 2 times he could have killed Saul, but he didn't. He was there, he had the power, he had the strength, and it was seemingly perfect timing. Like, make it happen. Like, this is the moment. But he was so sold out. Who am I? Who am I to say what the Lord's plan is or to make things happen that God doesn't necessarily say is the time, right? So he was so sold out on God's agenda that he submitted himself to God. He didn't lay down his strength. He submitted it to God. He said, your way and your time, Lord. And that's why he was just an awesome king. So we may have been under the impression, which we kind of do, that our lives are supposed to be pain-free and conflict-free, free of uncertainty, free of financial hardships, free of relationship struggles, free of awkward moments, free of anything hard, right? Like, maybe that's because we're set on heaven, and in heaven it is going to be like that, But in the meantime, we're here and we're pushing against and we're trying to make this thing happen, but there's the forces of hell coming at us at the same time, and we're in between two worlds and trying to balance that. And in the meantime, the Lord's doing this incredible work in us. We're coming into our identity, we're coming into our authority, right? As I said before, if you're a disciple of Christ, you've signed your rights away. When you accepted Jesus as your Savior, you committed to not my will, but your will be done. So it's not our agenda, it's his agenda. And your life is going to look like Jesus' life. And Jesus came against some hard stuff to show that he was God, to show that he had the authority. Nobody would have known. Nobody would have thought anything about it if he was just walking through the meadow the whole time and was doing musical numbers with the disciples or something. It wouldn't have made for such a great story, right? Yeah, although that's kind of fun too. Maybe in heaven. So your life isn't about making you happy, it's about making you holy. How would we ever know that we have authority if we never got to practice it? If we never had hardships come our way, how would we ever know that he has overcome them? And because he has overcome them, we're going to overcome them. And that in him we're more than conquerors. If storms never came our way, how would we know he's our anchor? I love the stories of Jesus walking on the water. He came out to the disciples, and it was during a storm, and I think that there was something in that. It wasn't just a peaceful, because that's when I would want to walk on the water if I was going to walk on the water, right? If I'm going to do this, I want it to be calm. There's enough. I'm walking on the water. I don't need a storm at the same time, right? But I think there was something with that, and I don't think he had a troubled, I'm doing it, And he wasn't doing it because he didn't know how to swim, He was doing it to show his authority, And I think he had a smile on his face. I think he was like the face of peace, And then Jesus in the boat, asleep during the storm, and the disciples are all freaked out, and Jesus is sleeping through it. And he gets up, and he's kind of a little frustrated. Maybe he was showing them, you calm it, you do it, I have to do everything, But he calmed it, and maybe he went back to sleep. I don't know. But we can sleep through the storm too. We can quiet the storm. We can get off the crazy train anytime we want. He who lives in you is greater than he who lives in the world. You will have trouble, but take heart, for I have overcome the world. That's good. So how does the Lord work out patience in us? By putting us in situations that try our patience. How do we know that we are overcomers if we never had anything to overcome? But in all these things we are more than conquerors through him. How does the Lord work out kindness? All the fruits of the Spirit, how do they come to be fruit in our lives? It's through some pruning, through some fertilizing, through some storms. So how does the Lord work out kindness in our lives? He gives us opportunities to show kindness. And sometimes the people who need to be shown kindness are mean people, because they're mean because they never were shown kindness, and they don't really know what to do with it, I was at Costco the other day, and I was getting out of my car, and there was a lady next to me, and she had, in her cart, was a whole bunch of cases of chili and water, which I thought was a funny combination. You need a lot of water if you're going to eat that much chili. She was a hard lady. She was, she looked like a meanie pants. And I felt like I was supposed to help her unload her stuff out of and into her car, and then take her cart, And so I was like, "Hi, can I take your cart? I can help you unload that stuff, And so I was unloading these big things of water and chili, and I was putting them in her the back seat of her car. Don't worry, I was planning if she was going to come at me, I was going to kick her like that, like the donkey kick, Because you got to think, you want to be nice, but you don't want to be naive, right? So, okay, she's a serial killer. So I got him in the car, and then I grab the car, it's empty. I'm like, expecting her to be like, "Thank you. Oh, I'm so blessed by you. Oh, wow," And so I'm like, standing at the cart, the golden retriever. What do you think, Let's go get coffee. Let's celebrate this, Slice of pizza. I don't know, me and you. And she's just like, she gets in her car, and that was it. And I'm like, "Okay, weirdo." And I didn't say that. So I was thinking, but I'm in Costco, and I'm trying to process what happened. I'm kind of getting gosh, hello, I just helped you, lady. Even kind of hurt my shoulder a little bit, I'm kind of like, what was that about, Lord? It was totally like a kid who does something nice, and then they're like, "Hey, what do I get now? Okay, I obeyed, now what do I get?" "Okay, Lord, what do I get now?" And he's like, is it just enough to know that you served me, that you obeyed me? Are you confident enough in my love for you that you don't need people's praise or admiration? Did I go with an agenda to help her? I kind of think I did. Look at me, I'm a Christian. So good, Sometimes we're going to serve the world, and they're not going to give us anything back. In fact, a lot of the times, right? That's what makes it so powerful, though. That's what makes it such a testimony. So God is going to use you to accomplish his agenda. Whoever wants to save their life will lose it, but whoever loses their life for my sake will find it. My last point, number 4, meekness is knowing your strength and also knowing your enemy. So if we have this strength in us and it's controlled, we have to know, if we're going to control it, we have to know how strong we are, right? The Bible says, "Be alert and of sober mind. Your enemy, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion, looking for someone to devour." And I know we don't like to give, I know we don't like to give the enemy a lot of like lip service, but I think it is good to discuss his schemes and the way he works, because we don't want to be the doormat. We don't want to be I'm out in the world and I don't realize that I have an enemy who's coming after me. So he wants to steal, kill, and destroy. He's the father of lies, and he disguises himself like an angel of light. And I think sometimes at church we get confused about who our enemy is. And I think the enemy really likes that. He likes it when we're confused and we're, for instance, this red cup, it's not our enemy. Right? And I'm preaching to the choir here, but this is our enemy, right? Abortion, right? That's our enemy, which is kind of funny because actually this company gives money to abortion. And I bought the cup specifically just so I could have it for this lesson. But what does that say? I don't know. Figure that out for yourself. I think we're the church. We get confused over enemy, and we're going sometimes. And you guys don't, not Zion. We don't. We're good. Your enemy is not your husband or your wife. Your enemy is not your children, although it feels like it. It feels like they're plotting against you to take you out. But they're not. They're really not. It's the devil in them. That's what I say. I have this funny story, and I don't know. This is not like do this parenting moment. This is like, don't do this. It's not good, but it's funny. I was just getting so fed up, and we're going, and anytime you're going someplace and the kids are acting up and it's just been a long week, and you kind of, when you just start grasping for anything to throw at your kids just to get them to be quiet and to stop hitting each other and to stop being so bad. And so Noah was going at it, and Micah was going at it. And I turned around and I said, "You're making Satan so happy right now." And the whole car's just like, and then we all just burst out laughing because it was so ridiculous. Like, that's what I was throwing at him. Like, that's when you know you're at the end, like you have nothing left and you're making Satan so happy right now. So use that one, that's fun. Our struggle is not flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. Know your enemy. Satan's plan is to get you so distracted with the wrong enemy and so fired up and you don't have anything left for the real battles, We waste all our energy on the wrong enemy, and then we have nothing left. It's like we can be running around with these sawed-off shotguns and just, anything that comes. Anything that's offensive in any way or anything that just, rattles us. That's a horrible shotgun impression, but we need to be like sharpshooters, right? We need to calm down. And we need to, control ourselves, control our strength. Timing and precision, understanding your enemy, the sharpshooter, they'll lay in the bushes for hours and hours and wait, Strength controlled. So when we're walking in meekness, we will be alert, we will be vigilant, we will be of sound mind, we will be united with our brothers and sisters, we will understand that we have an enemy, and we will know our enemy and understand how he works. Yes, he works in situations and circumstances, but a big one is also in how we think. There's tons of ungodly beliefs in there that we don't realize how many thoughts we think a day, but it's thousands, according to Google. We need to know our enemy, and sometimes we just need to look in the mirror, and say, "Get thee behind me, Satan." What's that? Hmm? Oh. Yeah. Or do that too, yeah. Slap yourself around. Do you need to take, like I said in the beginning, you need to take yourself seriously. You are serious. God takes you seriously, and he takes what you are and what you have, what he's deposited in you seriously. So in order to, point 4 was also controlling our strength. So in order to control our strength, we have to be aware of our strength. We need to know when, where, and how to wield it. I have to know my strength. You have to know your strength. And how could we ever control it if we didn't? So the tools and the weapons the Lord have given us are prayer. And that's so powerful. Do we know how powerful that is? Do we know how powerful and effective our words are and our thoughts? The Bible talks about casting down imaginations, and I love that he uses imaginations because I have a wild imagination, and I'll get on that and write it and like into these horrible situations and horrible things are happening, and then, so I'm like, no, stop, pull it down. Bring it into the Lord. Is that true? Before I get on the crazy cycle, So casting down imaginations and every high thing that exalts itself against the knowledge of God, and bringing into captivity every thought to the obedience of Christ. The weapons that we fight with are not weapons of the world. On the contrary, they have divine power to demolish strongholds. Our words, just our words. You ever get the right word at the right moment and it's gone, that whatever was holding you captive is gone, So we wield our power with meekness, with strength controlled. Strength submitted to God for his purposes. Power under control. I'm just using strength and power here a lot because I want to brainwash you. Power under control. Strength and power used to serve others. So our Father, he's given us the keys to the kingdom. He's given us power and authority, and they are held on the key ring of meekness, which is we remain malleable to God. We use our strength to serve and empower others, and we're all about our Father's agenda. His agenda is our agenda. We know our strength and we know our enemy. When we grasp these things, and we're all on a journey, it's not perfect, we're walking it out, but we're on the way, and when we start grasping these things, the Father can give us more, can entrust us with more. So that's it. Thank you guys so much for letting me speak. Thank you.